What's up? I'm back with another update video. So, I didn't have any time to work on my project today, but tomorrow I have the day off because of July 4th. I know tomorrow's July 3rd, but I get the day off because they're taking Friday to observe July 4th, if that makes any sense. And so, I plan to spend a good chunk of the day working on the HTTP server project, and I will also push some commits to GitHub for any of you guys that are tracking the project. And additionally, I'll probably compile a list of resources that I've used and include them in tomorrow's video description. Aside from that though, since it's the weekend and I have some more time, I want to spend a little bit of time making some educational videos that pertain to math and machine learning. There's a bunch of different ones that I'm interested in making, but I think a good one would be maybe starting out with the from scratch implementation of principal component analysis, because overall it's pretty straightforward to implement principal component analysis, and I think when you do from scratch implementations, it makes the underlying theory that motivates the algorithm or the technique a lot more clear. I mean, you could read about how neural networks or LLMs or things like that work, but if you never implement one, there's still sort of a level of ambiguity where you could say, oh, it works this way, but then someone could keep asking you, oh, well then how do you implement that? Or what do you mean it does this? And eventually you'll get down to a point where you'll realize that you're kind of just reiterating what other people have told you and you don't actually understand it. But when you do a from scratch implementation and you write the code yourself, there's no ambiguity. You know exactly what's going on. And so it's very instructive and it's very educational. I like doing it even for things that I already understand. Like I've written transformers from scratch multiple times. I think 2 times at this point. If I do it again, it'll be 3. I think I might write another one this weekend. I've written regular multi-layer perceptron neural networks from scratch a handful of times as well. And I've also just implemented a lot of these key algorithms from scratch, because you can read a paper on an algorithm and understand generally what they're getting at, but until you go through the mechanics of getting it implemented in code, I don't think you really fully understand that. Like for example, when I was working with layer norm, I can explain more or less what layer norm does and the purpose that it serves inside a broader module like a neural network or a transformer. But until you actually implement layer norm and you see how it operates on tensors, it's kind of hard to get the big picture of what it's doing and how it tangibly affects the inputs it receives. Another thing that is like that is residual connections, where you can read the papers where they introduce the idea of residual connections and you can kind of get the idea and you have some vague sense of the theory that they're trying to propose, but until you actually see that, hey, when you implement a residual connection in PyTorch, you just add the tensor. It's like module x plus x. That's all your residual connection is. It actually sort of demystifies it and makes it a lot more simple. And so all of that is to say, I think there's tremendous utility in doing from scratch implementations of things, even if they're things that you already understand, because you're almost certainly going to learn something new. And even if you already understand the thing conceptually, you'll gain a deeper level of knowledge when you've done an implementation yourself. So a couple of things I want to implement. I could show how to implement a neural network, an AutoGrad engine, various ML algorithms like principal component analysis, other dimensionality reduction techniques like T stochastic neighbor embeddings and UMAP, things like that. If you guys have any preference on what you want me to implement, leave a comment and I will respond to it and put it at the top of the queue of things to work on. But as far as what I think is most interesting, I think obviously implementing a transformer is very, what's the phrase I'm looking for? Implementing a transformer is very instructive for the way the industry is moving right now. I think something else that would also be equally useful is implementing a vision transformer. So if you know the paper, a picture is worth 16 by 16 words, that was one of the original vision transformer papers that tried to apply the concepts of transformers to multimodal inputs where you have images as well as potentially text. That's actually a paper I haven't read end to end, and so making a video where I implement that would probably be a pretty good technique, or not technique, it would probably be a pretty good exercise. Sorry, if you can't tell by the pace at which I'm talking and how long I'm having to think between words, I'm extremely tired. It's been a very long week, and yeah, but generally right now I'm just rambling about what I want to do this weekend, and give you guys an idea of what it is I intend to accomplish. I have been trying to wrestle around with how I want to do this. I like doing my CS self-study. I like doing my CS self-study projects and making those update videos, but at the end of the day, I am in the industry of machine learning, and so I would like to make a decent amount of machine learning videos as well. And so I don't think I have to compromise and choose one over another. I think generally I'm gonna commit to doing the CS self-study projects every day, but when I'm on, when I have more free time on the weekends, or even if I happen to have some more free time in the middle of the week, I think I will pick a ML model or, oh wow, my monitor just went dark. I think I'll pick an ML model or an algorithm or something to implement from scratch, because it shouldn't be that challenging for me because I already have a lot of exposure to this stuff. And so really it's going through the motions of writing the code and figuring out how to transmute the algorithm and the theory into an actual working example. And I also think it'd be good to put on my resume and on my GitHub just, hey, I've implemented all these papers, I know what's going on. I'm not just vibe coding all my models. So yeah, it's multifaceted. I think there's the same could be said for my CS self-study projects, where they might not be particularly impressive, but there's certainly no question that I'm doing it myself, because there's probably some issues in the code, not issues like logical issues, but just things that could be optimized or more canonical ways of doing things that I haven't done because I'm not coming from a strict software background. So if you're looking through my code on the GitHub repos, it's readily apparent that I'm not using AI to write it. I'm using my own mental faculties, because there's probably plenty of room for optimization and code cleanup and all sorts of improvements, which I don't take that as a bad thing. Maybe down the line I'll be able to recognize some of the places where I could improve my code and look back, I'll be like, oh, why did I do it this way? Clearly this is the right way to do it. That's the whole motivation of undergoing this journey of self-study in the first place, is that the only way you get better at things is by doing things. You're not going to get better at stuff by reading a bunch of articles or watching a bunch of videos. And I've had to learn that the hard way. You get stuck in tutorial hell by spending all your time just copying stuff and watching videos. So I'm breaking myself out of tutorial hell, and even if the code that I'm pumping out is not the prettiest, I can at least take pride in the fact that I wrote it myself, and the solutions that I came up with were also things that I came up with myself. But yeah, this has just kind of been like a rambling update video. Point to take home is that I'm going to be doing several things this weekend. Going to try to finish the HTTP server project, and also probably going to put out some machine learning videos. I think what I'm interested in doing right now is principal component analysis, but if I have more time, I might make another video on something else. But yeah, I'm going to get some sleep so I can actually have time tomorrow to lock in and get some work done and make a good update video. But yeah, that's it for this one. Or that's it for this video. Have a good one.